Hi, happy Friday. I am a little bit frightened with today's live. You may hate me for saying these things. This is a live where I'm hoping to help you out. As always, that's what my purpose of these lives is for. But today I'm going to talk with you about when you should use an architect or a builder or a technician or an architectural technologist. There are a variety of non-architects who do some similar work to architects, and they're called architectural technologists or architectural technicians. And there's different sort of thing entirely, but a lot of people get confused between the two. And I get a lot of people asking me, well, who should I speak to first? Should I speak to a builder first? Do I need an architect? And a lot of people say to me, oh, well, we worked with an architect, but when I ask them a little bit more, actually, they haven't worked with an architect, they've worked with an architectural technologist or a technician. So these, although we are all interrelated and we work as teams often, we are not delivering the same service. And from each of the three different professionals, you are going to get a different result. And it's worth you knowing what it is that you need for your project. And so that's what I'm going to cover today. So obviously I should let you know I'm an architect, and I'm trying not to be biased in this. I don't want to make it out that, all projects should be done by an architect. I mean, architects have got some unique things to bring to the table, and you're not going to get the same results not using an architect as you would using an architect. But that doesn't mean that you have to use an architect for every project. And there are some projects where an architect, we are not the cheapest option. And so for some smaller, simpler projects, an architect may just cost too much and may not be worth your while spending that extra, because it's not going to give you something that you are going to value. So, as I said, I'm an architect. If you've not met me before or you've not seen me before, I'm Jane. I am the founding director of iArchitect, and I specialise in helping homeowners of period property turn those into comfortable, characterful homes that suit a modern lifestyle, and help do their bit to protect the planet, which I think, we all have a responsibility for. So what we're going to talk about: architects, builders, technologists. I'm going to go for technologists. What I mean by this is somebody who has perhaps got the CIAT, C-I-A-T after their name. Those are the best technologists to go for. If you want to work with somebody who's not an architect, then check that they have CIAT. If they have neither ARB or CIAT after their name, then I would personally say proceed with caution. They may be brilliant, but is less likely that you will know. And certainly if you've got somebody who is ARB or CIAT, then they will have to follow codes of conduct, they will have to have insurance in place, and all of those things will protect you and your project. So I would say if you're going to use somebody, go with somebody who's really professionally qualified and has got some decent certification and substance behind them, rather than just somebody who's learnt how to use CAD. So there are lots of builders who are brilliant. There are lots of builders who are not. Equally, that's the same with architects. Equally, that's the same with technologists. So I'm not going to tell you here how to go about choosing a good one from a bad one, how you can tell the difference. That's a subject for another time. If you want me to go into that, please leave a comment below, and I'll put that in my list of videos to cover for another date. But what I'm going to cover here is what the different results you're going to get from the different professions there. We're not completely interchangeable, and yes, you are going to get a result at the end of it, whichever one you choose. but it's not going to be the same result. So the first thing you need to really know really well is, what is it that you want? What are you looking for out of your project? Hi Valkyrie, good to see you. If it's the cheapest, quickest build, then to be absolutely honest, there's no guarantee for this from any of the options. Going for a builder, going for an architect, or going for a technologist, none of those are the single answer to getting the cheapest, quickest build. Possibly, if you're looking for something of higher quality, you are more likely to want to go and work with an architect first, because architects, that's what we're trained to do. We're trained in sort of more high-end stuff, but we're not exclusively working with high-end. And so you're not just going to get the expensive option from the architect. And equally, you know, sometimes there is that saying, pay cheap, pay twice. So sometimes, you know, I have had projects in the past where I've come along and work has been carried out, and actually it wasn't that cheap and the work was not very good. And so they're actually looking to rebuild the extension or redo the work. So they're in effect paying twice for the same project. And that costs you almost twice as much, even if you paid quite a low amount the first time round and you're only paying a sort of a normal amount the second time round, you're still paying twice. It's not a lot different. So I would say consider what the value you need, what's valuable to you, not just thinking about the total cost, but about the value of the build to you. And it's possibly worth paying a little bit more rather than going for the cheapest option, so that you get it right in the first place. I mean, when you're talking about work to your home, it's not just about the cost of the work itself, it's also your time and your effort, the disruption to your life. I mean, it's a big deal getting work done to your home, and it's a real pain. If it doesn't work out and you don't get what you want, then you're not going to be happy. And even if it costs you a couple of £1,000 less to do it in one way, that saving is irrelevant really if you've not got what you want at the end of it. So it's not to do with quickest and cheapest. So where I would say you would be best to go with a builder would be if you're looking at some very simple works, so a very small extension or some small amount of internal reconfiguration or redecoration or refurbishment, where the work that you're having done is very traditional in construction, and you're not looking at doing anything where you're looking to improve the energy efficiency of your home, or anything where you're looking at something that's like a little bit more, needs a bit more innovative approach, where you're purely looking at very traditional standard construction. And in that case, you could work with a builder directly, and you don't necessarily have to get drawings done to do that sort of work with the builder. Now, I said that, but I always would recommend that as an absolute minimum, you have a list of the tasks that you want your builder to do, and that's sort of signed. Ideally, you have a contract in place and include that list. Much better if you do have some drawings, even if they're only sketch drawings. The more that you have written out, drawn out when you're working with a builder, the less that they are assuming, and the more you can be sure that you're both on the same page and what you want is what is going to be built. The last thing you want to do is give a builder the go-ahead thinking you're going to get one thing, and the builder thinks he's going to give you something else, and at the end he's unsatisfied because you're not satisfied, because the best builders at the end of the day want their clients to be happy with what they've done. And so you want a good builder who wants that front for you, but the chances are lower that they're going to be able to deliver if they don't have the right information from you. And if you have it all documented, then you've got the best chance of knowing that you each understand each other and what it is that you're supposed to be getting or to be delivering for that money, and you're both going to be happier at the end of the day. So there is another sort of form of going to a builder, and that is where you go to a design and build builder. That's kind of a different thing. I'm really talking here about a builder who is more of a practical person or a small company, rather than somebody who also has a team, either an in-house team or a team that they tend to subcontract work to, because that's slightly different. What you'll find then is that you don't have so much control over the design. You maybe give them a rough idea of what it is that you want. Their designer might come out and spend some time with you, or might not. The cost of the design work will be hidden within the total fee, so you won't really know how much the design is worth. And then the whole of the cost of the project, in terms of the quality of the workmanship or the quality of the materials, you will have very little say in that, and the builder will make all those judgments and choices based on them maximising their profits within your budget. So design and build is an option, but and it has some positive points, it does have some positive points. It can be a simpler thing for you to go down that route, but it can cost you more for the quality of what you get. So that's where I would say you just need to be careful with that. If you want a standard extension, it's a little bit of a bigger project, maybe slightly more complicated. It's not something that you can just go directly to a builder and get them to build with little or no information. It's a simple extension or alteration. Perhaps it needs planning permission, but you just want exactly the same as what your next door neighbour has got or what the guy down the street has got. You're not looking for anything particularly special, nothing that really is bespoke to you, and that takes into account a lot of your real needs and desires. Then going with an architectural technologist could be the good option for you. So they will do something relatively quickly, relatively standard. Some will be better than others, and some will spend a bit more time talking with you than others. But at the end of the day, they don't tend to look at your brief in the same way as an architect would, so they wouldn't evaluate it in the same way. So yes, they do a brilliant job in terms of what they do, but they will be delivering for you something that is a lot more standard, and that might be all that you want. And if that is all that you want, then that's great. That is the right route for you to go down. So what I would just say is try to choose a better architectural technologist, someone who has got CAT, and when you speak to them, they do listen a bit more to what it is that you want. Then finally, final option, where you are looking for something more bespoke, something that is an alteration to your home that actually does take much more into account your personal needs, your family, your lifestyle. Maybe it's working with an existing building, or maybe you're looking at completely new build. You're looking for something more innovative, more cutting edge, not something that is just a standard solution, but something that is a bit more than that. Perhaps someone who's got a bit more of an eco-specialism, more architectural conservation specialism, something that is a bit different or much more in tune with you and your needs. That's when I would say you'd be better off working with an architect. If you're not just looking for a standard approach, you're not just looking for a traditional approach, then you need to work with an architect to get that. because the best architects, they listen and they design for you. The worst architects don't necessarily listen to you, and they design for themselves and their own ego and their own sort of, you know, what they like to design. So, you know, I'm not saying that always architects are always the best, but I'm just saying that the training that an architect goes through is really different. Builders are brilliant at building what they know best, and they're going to give you a really good result within what they know. Especially, I mean, when you're this is particularly when you're talking about smaller scale projects where you're working on what in the overall construction industry are relatively small. So alterations and extensions to a single family home tend to be within the realm of a small project. And unless you're talking about, you know, deluxe kind of massive basement extensions in the centre of London, where you will find very professional outfits, and they are certainly not cheap, and they're very different sort of breed. They tend to just be in London. You don't tend to get them out of London. So I'm talking about, you know, in the sort of Cheshire area, the Manchester area, around here, what you're tending to look at when you're looking at the smaller scale project to homes, you're going to get smaller scale outfits. You're not going to get the big architectural practices who do the huge, you know, housing estates or new build schools or hospitals. Those architecture practices, they're busy building and designing huge projects. What you're going to get is you're going to get smaller architectural practices. When you're looking at your technologist, you may find that you're working with a technologist who works full-time for a bigger practice but might be doing some work on the side, or purely devotes themselves to doing smaller scale extensions. And when you're looking at builders who are working with homeowners, they tend to be smaller builders. And what you'll find is that the better those building contractors are, the more booked up they are. And you know that it's the ones who are quick and easy to get a hold of are going to be better for doing smaller, simpler things. But you know, you do need to be a little bit careful about your selection of them. So those are the three typical options. Those are the different, when people are doing work to their homes, they will either think to go to a builder or they'll think to go to an architect. But a lot of people think an architect is the only option. It's not just an architect, there is also the technologist. Beware of the technologist who says they're basically an architect, because they're not basically an architect. They don't do exactly the same thing. Although what they do is quite similar, it's not the same. And so if what you're looking for is a relatively simple and standard, then, you know, a builder for simple, small stuff, a technologist for slightly bigger, slightly more complex, but still completely standard stuff. If you're looking for something that is a bit different, a bit more bespoke to you, a bit more higher quality, a bit more innovative, that's when you need to start looking at working with an architect. I hope that's helped clarify things. I hope you don't hate me if you're a technologist, if you're a builder and you disagree strongly with me. By all means, comment below. I'm always up for a bit of discussion and debate, and I'm happy to hear your point of view. So that's all for now, and I look forward to speaking to you next Friday.